So today is really all about learning about the joy of meeting men in real life and why I believe abundance is so important to your dating life. So having worked in the dating industry for over 15 years, I feel so much women's dating advice, for want of a better word, is a bit depressing. You know, the way women are spoken to about dating just makes you feel that there's never going to be any good men left, and the ones that are left are all going to have attachment issues. This can lead you into a psychological state with dating where you feel really demoralized, not to mention the fact that dating apps in and of themselves can feel sometimes like a really energy draining, labor intensive way to meet someone. So my approach is all about giving you practical tools and exercises to change your dating life. I really believe that dating isn't all that different to all of those other things that we strive for and achieve. And I know for those of you listening, you're going to have achieved lots in your careers, in your professional life, in your studies. And just like learning anything, I believe dating is a completely learnable skill. But in order to succeed at it, perhaps you need some specific exercises and some action steps that you can take. So this isn't going to be a webinar where I'm going to tell you to just be yourself or to just be confident. Instead, we're going to be drilling down into what it takes to beat the cycle of scarcity and have a much more enjoyable dating life with the eventual outcome of finding a great partner. Now, obviously, when we're in a cycle of scarcity in our dating lives where we don't feel like there's anybody good left to date, or perhaps you feel that none of your dates are really exciting you, or none of the interactions you're having turn out in the way that you want, it starts to slowly but slowly chip away at your self-esteem. You can start to enter into negative beliefs around dating, that perhaps you're never going to meet anybody, or that dating is broken, or no men want commitment anymore. And when you're in this cycle of negative beliefs, it obviously then makes it easier to make bad decisions in your dating life. And I've 100% been there myself, whether that's saying yes to situationships where you know that the guy can't give you the outcome that you want. He can't offer you a relationship, but at least you feel a connection to him, so it sort of feels better than nothing at all. Or perhaps staying in relationships that aren't right for you, but again, that somehow feels better than going back out into the world of dating again. So when we experience a feeling of scarcity in our dating lives, where we feel like we actually have very few options, or it's really challenging to meet someone, this has a real knock-on effect to how we approach the later stages of dating, how high our self-esteem is, who we choose to partner up with, and what our beliefs are around dating. Because of that, what I really like to start with, if we're looking for one amazing thing that we can start to change in your dating lives in 2024, it's to find it far easier and also more enjoyable, because that's a really important one for your motivation, far easier and far more enjoyable to meet more men, particularly in real life. Why I think this is so fundamental is, imagine if you felt that you could easily, some point this next week, whether it's on your lunch break or when you're meeting some friends at a bar after work, if you felt that you could easily meet a high quality guy for a date in any of those everyday spaces, it would probably mean that you'd find it easier to say no when that man, the situationship guy, sends you a message. It'd probably be a bit easier to ignore him. And you may also find that you have higher standards for the men that you choose to date, and you may date from a place of better self-esteem. So rather than thinking, oh, I have to go on a date because I really need to do something about this area of my life, oh, I'm running out of time, and all the stress that's involved with that decision-making process, dating could actually start to feel like, you know what, I could actually choose someone to go on a date with who makes me feel kind of excited or optimistic, or I'm choosing to go on a date with this person because of how much effort they've made and how much contribution they've given to a relationship. So when you feel really secure in your ability to meet high quality men, it positively impacts later stages of your dating life. And as we all know, when we're engaging with any area of our lives, particularly dating, from a space where you're feeling really positive, you feel confident that you're able to get the outcome of a relationship that you want, you feel a deep sense of trust in yourself that you're able to get that relationship, of course, you also interact with men in a way that is just naturally more attractive. So I thought, gosh, if there's one thing I really want to talk about, I really want to teach at the start of this year, it's about this gift of thinking about ways to start to meet men in real life, and also to give you a bit of an explanation as to why that may feel challenging in 2024 and what you can practically do to start to change that. So just a question to you: how are you meeting men at the moment? Can you write in the chat box and just let me know the main channels that you're meeting men, or perhaps if you found somewhere really great that you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody else. Let us know how you're meeting people right now. So when it comes to dating, a lot of what dating apps and apps. Singles events. Okay, so we've had one real life person. Yeah, a lot of people are sort of confessing to apps. Lauren, love it. My favourite coffee shop. Fantastic. And look, apps aren't all bad. They have their place. However, if you feel completely reliant on dating apps, like if you feel completely reliant on anything and it's not going your way and it's feeling like a struggle, again, that's a really easy way that can kind of make you feel a bit demoralized. And obviously, as a dating coach, I'm here to show you ways that you can find motivation and enjoyment in dating again. So dating can be hard to identify all of the men that are out there for you. And I obviously, I don't know how much you know about me. Me and my team of coaches, we work with men as well. We specialise in doing live training events and workshops, which means we take men and women out into the real world and teach them how to meet one another. So I get a really interesting insight into what stops good quality, not to describe them like they're an item of clothing, but good quality men from actually meeting and engaging with you, because I am there by their side as they are hesitating. So why is it feeling harder than perhaps before to meet men in person? Well, we can look at if we look at our social environment we live in now, we can see that there's some obvious challenges that didn't exist before. First of all, yes, lots of people meet on dating apps, which means guys can, if he thinks he can perhaps find you on an app or on social media later, that's a good way for him to not take the action step of meeting you in real life. We've also, not too long ago, had the Me Too movement, where many actually very nice and conscientious guys, probably the ones that you would like to meet, now seriously think twice about saying hello to you, because they don't want to be the person that's harassing, they don't want to overstep the mark, and because of that, they hold back entirely. Ironically then, that often means that the only men that you do meet are perhaps the ones who are more confident or who are less considerate or conscientious of your personal boundaries. We've also had a pandemic, which has made us all find it more challenging to meet one another, and that pandemic has fundamentally changed how we socialise. We now work from home a lot more, meaning our opportunities to meet one another become more limited. You add up together our reliance on technology and apps, a pandemic, the Me Too movement, shifting roles between men and women, and we get to a space where it just doesn't feel that easy for him, even if he's attracted to you, even if he's interested in you, for him to go over and make the move to meet you in real life. And unfortunately, the narrative that we've often been given to us as women about this is it's because we're not attractive enough. We're not attractive enough, we don't look like the kind of woman he wants to meet, and therefore nobody wants to connect with us, which again feeds into that really negative cycle of self-belief, which chips away at your self-esteem. When in fact the truth is, if you could see what I see, if you could see how many men would love to connect with you, you would start to probably again even start to chip in to that feeling of abundance and self-confidence. So the men are out there, it's just there are these new social barriers for him to say hello to you that perhaps didn't exist in quite the same way in the past. Now, of course, we can well, he should just, if he likes me, he should just man up and come and talk to me. But I think if you consider the social environment that he's in, and actually the fact that if he is being considerate, if he's being conscientious, that he will be recognizing, I'd like to talk to her, but actually she's with a friend, and I'm not the sort of person that intrudes. I'm not that creepy guy, that there becomes a barrier between men and women meeting one another. Add to that the fact that as women, we're never really spoken to about how we make our dating lives better. Even the question, where are all the good men? It puts an emphasis on location. And often the first place the women that I work with will think about when it comes to improving their dating lives, they'll think, which is the dating app that I need to go on to get to meet the amazing men that I want to meet? Or, you know, where is this, have you got any good venues that I can go to? So we make it about where, we don't make it about how. How, when you're on that dating app, or more importantly to this webinar, when you have an opportunity to meet men in real life, how do you create that opportunity for yourself? And this isn't about striding up to some guy and saying, hey baby. It's about actually recognizing that there's probably a huge layer of opportunity to meet men that you haven't cracked into yet, that could change how you feel about dating. That's a fantastically learnable skill. And it's not about doing all his work for him. It's about creating the right environment where he feels motivated and confident enough to say hello to you. And when you can start to make this happen, it's going to change how you feel about dating. And dating can then start to feel a lot more fun and a lot more rewarding. So if right now you feel that there's, you know, you're on that narrative of there's no good men left, remind yourself people form great relationships every single day. And there's nothing about you that is not good enough, not attractive enough, not young enough, not any of those awful narratives we're given as women. It might just be that there's a gap of skills here that is stopping you from recognizing opportunities, and also that you too have just gone through some social conditioning with a pandemic, which makes it harder for you to know how to engage with him as well. So I really believe, and this session is going to really focus on just a couple of simple skills that you can take into your everyday life to improve your opportunities to meet men in real life. As I said, dating apps have their place, but there's a few key reasons why I feel that every woman / every person has to know or has to have a few skills to meet people in real life. In real life, if he comes over to you and he begins a conversation with you, if he starts an interaction, then, to put it bluntly, he's got a bit more skin in the game. If he's had to face his fears of thinking, oh, is she just going to reject me? Is this going to be awkward? And he has to say hello to you. He is more invested in the outcome of that interaction than if you've just swiped on an app, because he's actually had to do something. He's had to take a risk. So if we and you can learn the skills to encourage him to take that step over the line and take that risk, it means that he's more invested in that interaction. And also, just from your perspective, I think when we meet in person, you relate in person, you immediately get a better sense of whether there's, for want of a better word, a vibe or a connection. So it also avoids that other dating trap of going on date after date after date and really not feeling any connection. It's sort of starting to feel like a bit of a waste of your time and energy draining. So instead, it really helps to make him more invested in the outcome of the interaction, and you also equally more excited and clearer that you'd really like to meet him. So to begin with, we want to start by really starting to redesign your life so that you can think about opportunities to meet him in person. I see Claire has written that she meets people at private clubs, friends parties, apps, getting out to coffee shops. So that's a really good start, because you can meet men anywhere. And I want you to start to look at your life at the moment and think about what opportunities there are to meet men in person. Now, even if you have opportunities, you may find that you have limiting beliefs, things going on inside of you that make it harder for you to recognize those opportunities or to take action around them. So the first exercise we're going to talk about today is about recognizing more opportunities. And it's also a fantastic exercise to do, even if you don't speak to any men, even if you don't see any men, It's a really helpful exercise to figure out what your internal limiting beliefs are around dating. So the first exercise I call it is what I call the intuition hack. So you can do this exercise absolutely anywhere. It doesn't have to be at a bar or a club. It could be at a gym. It could be at a coffee shop. It could be on your daily commute. It starts firstly with you having an intention, which is I'm going to start to try and recognize more opportunities around me. And as I said, even if you recognize opportunities but don't do anything, this is still a very good way to start to turn the cycle, and instead of feeling that scarcity in your dating life, to start to feel a bit more confident and abundant. Some of the women that I work with during my real life trainings have said to me that they have literally gone their whole lives believing that no men want to talk to them. And it's only when they've done this exercise that they realise that men do want to interact with them. They just haven't been able to see them yet. So the intuition hack is, first of all, you start with a daily intention. You're going to start to try and connect with people in real life, and you're going to look out for opportunities. The second thing you do is when you're in anywhere that's a public space, I want you to start to, first of all, move around the space. So that could be walking around a coffee shop or walking around a bar, and I want you to try and start to make eye contact with people. Now, why I encourage you to make eye contact, and I know some of you, even that word eye contact, you're going to be like, no, Hayley, I can't do it. Why this is such a good exercise to do is because if you struggle to do this exercise, it is going to teach you something really valuable around what your hesitations are. I've worked with many women who have done this exercise, and some of the things that have come up for them have been, I don't want to make eye contact because I don't want people to know I'm single, because I feel sort of embarrassed about being single on some level. Or I don't want to make eye contact because I feel like I'm awkward. Like I feel like I'm not the sort of woman that men are really attracted to. A good hack for you to start to make this exercise is to walk around this venue and think, I have the most beautiful eyes in the room. I've got the most beautiful eyes in the room. I've got the most beautiful eyes in the room. And to walk around and to try and make eye contact. So exercise one is the intuition hack. Firstly, have an intention to start to try and recognize opportunities. When you're in any social environment, gym, coffee shop, commuter train, bar, otherwise, try to make eye contact. Your inner prompt to make the eye contact is to think, I have the most beautiful eyes in the room. I have the most beautiful eyes in the room. I have the most beautiful eyes in the room. Notice either if you can't do it, your brain will provide you with a great excuse as to why you can't, and that is going to tell you a great area to start to work on and fix in your dating life, a good limiting belief to start to chip away at. If you can do it, you're going to start to notice that not everybody, but some people start to look up. And you know what? To begin with, you don't have to do this just to attractive men. Just do it with everybody. It's a fantastic way. It's a fantastic way to see who is reciprocating. So just to go on to Sarah's question, Sarah asks, I do try to make eye contact, but never seem to find anyone I find attractive reciprocating. So Sarah, I'd say two things. One, you may not know how attractive someone is. I think by attractive you mean your initial physical type, and that is really important. However, also be open to the possibility that someone who isn't your initial physical type could become more attractive to you as you interact with them more. Interact with them more. And also you can change how you're making eye contact. If you're already quite comfortable using eye contact and that's not creating a barrier for you, I would recommend actually doing something called the coital gaze, which is where you make eye contact, you look away and you make eye contact again. And you may find that by doing this, it helps to prompt a stronger response. Sarah, also in my next exercise, I'm going to be teaching you some extensions of other things that you can do. So if that isn't initially getting you the results you want, there's more stuff coming. Claire asks, I don't find men I meet in the gym or pool to date. Same goes to random bar nights unless it's a specific venue. Well, as I'm a little bit biased here, having met my husband in the gym, but you can find good men to date everywhere. Now that being said, you can also once you have a great skill set down in terms of meeting men in real life, you can be strategic. So for instance, you can go to Tech Week in London if you fancy, you like a brainy entrepreneur is up your street. You could go to a sporting venue if that's what you like. You could go to a members club that attracts a more artistic crowd. You can be kind of specific and you can think cleverly about where you spend your time, but to begin with, developing the skill set. And also on the topic of gyms, if there's no one at your particular gym at the moment, it's definitely worth either getting class pass so you can just try lots of different venues, or swapping up exactly where you do your exercise. So instead, perhaps swapping one of your gym sessions a week to a more male-orientated fitness hobby, just to get you more exposure to the man you want. Dominica says, what to do to encourage them if they get scared when you make eye contact and look away. Really positive thing I want to say about how you phrase that question, Dominica, is you have, instead of thinking he's looked away because I'm not good enough or I'm not attractive enough, you've recognised that a reason a lot of the time both men and women look away isn't because they're not attracted, it's because they are attracted, but they feel fear around experiencing that. So that also provides me a fantastic jumping off point to my second little exercise. And by the way, all the exercises we're talking about tonight, they are mindset or body language driven exercises. On the trainings we do, we obviously talk to you about conversation skills and how to actually break the ice in a way that still looks for him to lead the interaction and make effort. But today, because it's just a one-off starter webinar, we're keeping it really, really simple. So to build on Dominica's question, the next step that I'd go up to from this is to build it out into the VEP. And I actually would add to that a couple of other P's as well, but we'll get to that in a second. So the V stands for visibility, which means, has he seen you? And often when we do our real life coaching, what we'll notice is often the first time a man sees a woman, he's just like you. He's thinking about his work or his friends. He isn't really in the zone to start to say hello to you. He needs a bit of a warming up period. So often it takes him noticing you a couple of times before that motivation builds for him to actually say hello to you. So visibility simply means when you go in anywhere, gym, coffee shop, bar, members club, you walk around the venue. And you walk around the venue using your eye contact exercise to start to recognise where there's opportunities. Good opportunities are often when, as you're walking past, for instance, a group of men, you may pause for just a split second as you're walking past them. You'll notice, not everybody, but some people will look up and will look up and engage. Now for you think, brilliant. This man is showing some signs of interest and is showing some signs of being socially open. Great. So I'll add that. First of all, even if he's not my type, I will take the compliment that there's some men out there who would love to meet me. And I will internalize that and I will feel a bit more abundant and confident in my dating life. If he is somewhat my type, or, maybe if he had a great personality, I'd be open to talking to him. I will use the rest of this model that Hayley's given me to try and access that opportunity. So, great question, Julia. I'm going to get to that in a second. So, if you've noticed someone, you've walked around the room, visibility, you've used eye contact and no limiting beliefs have come up for you, you've been able to use eye contact, the next step is proximity. It's just to stop somewhere close to him. Now, we've all got phones, which are fantastic props. You can walk next to him and try to get closer than you would think. Again, when we do our live trainings, we find an issue when we're teaching this exercise. The women we work with, they think they're standing close, but actually they're like 3 meters away. And there's no way he's going to recognize that opportunity then. If you can stand within maybe 1 meter or 2 meters maximum of him, he's going to find it a lot easier to talk to you. It would take a lot of courage for him to walk across a bar to say hello to you. It's not impossible. It is possible, but it takes more prompts and more, I guess, mastery of your signals from your side. To begin with, standing closer to him is just one of the easiest things you can do to reduce his fear of rejection and increase the chances of a conversation starting. Now, you'll also notice as I'm talking about this, I will talk about this in stages, because I really believe that meeting men in real life and also your dating life generally, it is a learnable skill, but it's something that takes, like any other skill, it takes learning and it takes practice, it takes fine-tuning. And that is sometimes not easy information to hear, because we'll all have seen people who have just seemed to magically find the perfect person, and it may feel actually deeply frustrating at times where that doesn't feel like you. But again, thinking about this as something that's learnable, it's also a great thing, because it means it's not just down to random luck. You can actually do things which will increase your chances of success with dating, which is good news, because it means there's stuff that you can do. It's actually an empowering space to come from, in my opinion. So to carry on with this VEP, so we've done our visibility, we've walked around the room, you've made eye contact, you've noticed if you're struggling to do that, what excuses have come up for you. P, you've proximity, you've stood closer to him. The other thing I'd encourage you to do is be present. So that means put your phone away. If we have headphones in or our phone out, again, it's going to add a barrier where he feels that we're preoccupied with something, and it's going to be, it feels like it's preoccupied. He's preoccupied. You're preoccupied with something, and that's again going to make it harder for him to say hello. And finally, we can also, and I'll go into more of this in the Q&A later, we can also sometimes use props such as scarf or an umbrella or a bag to actually engage with him more. So I will link this to Julia's question. Julia asks, what if there are more men in a group showing interest, but I don't know who I am most interested in? Well, I would suggest that you probably going to have to, there's two things you would do here, Julia. One, we all know what makes a huge difference to the outcome of those initial dates is a man's initial level, well, not initial, his general levels of willingness and readiness to do this. So whilst the exercises that we teach, it is about finding a balance between creating the right environment for him to make his move and to say hello to you, but also still leaving space for him to muscle up some courage and say hi. And that creates a beautiful filter. So say you walked past a group of men and they all look up, and then you do the proximity thing and you stand a bit closer to them, and you initially have your phone out, but then you put it away in your handbag. You will notice that perhaps one or two of the group, not all of them, are going to make the effort to start the conversation. So who is making the effort to start the conversation? Who's driving that conversation towards sharing contact details? Who is, perhaps they're not driving the conversation, but they're still stood there present, really making eye contact with you, nodding, seeming really engaged with what you're saying. There's going to be quite a good filter in there to who is the most engaged and willing. And everyone out there deserves a man who is willing and engaged and making effort from the start. Then for you, it's, remember, a invitation to start a conversation from you is not an invitation to exchange numbers, have a date, or certainly not anything else. And a lot of the reason that women can fear even doing these exercises is because obviously you could think, but then what if I start having an interaction with someone and I don't really like them? So finding a way to say, it's been really great chatting to you, I've got to get back to my friend. Remember, it's the quality of the conversation that happens next which will help you to decide who you feel a stronger connection to. And if you do feel a stronger connection to someone, there's also things you can actively say and do to prompt the person that you're most interested in to ask for your phone number. So if we have time at the Q&A at the end, we can go through what some of those prompts could be. But again, think of it this way. Firstly, who makes the initial effort to get to know you? That's a very important part of your screening, because you're looking for some men who make effort to get to know you and effort to be in your life. Secondly, an invitation to start a conversation is just an invitation to start a conversation. It's then in the conversation that you really make a decision about whether you want to take things further. If you do, there's things that you can do specifically in the conversation with the person you're interested in to prompt them to say hello to you. So it's about just breaking out that process. Claire, I feel like initial meetings aren't impossible, but because of momentum, it's hard to build something, get anything off the ground. I would say this, going back to the first thing I said, I do believe if you meet someone in real life, if he's thought about saying hello to you, has had to summon up some courage, has walked over to you and started a conversation, and through making an effort with the conversation and really trying, feels again that sense of reward that you've wanted to stay in touch with him, that creates a lot more investment his side at the beginning of an interaction versus, say, a dating app. Also, there are, again, conversational tools that you can use to create more excitement in that initial interaction for both you and him, because it's not just about him feeling excited about you, it's also about you feeling to a degree excited about the possibility of the interaction with him. And if we can create this mutual feeling of something that's exciting and novel, then you both feel more invested in the outcome of that interaction. And again, in the Q&A, if you want to go more into what some of those conversational tools could be, I'm really happy to do that. But I'm going to use this as a jumping off point because this links nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is, of course, when it comes to meeting somebody in real life, this is just the beginning. We all know, we have absolutely all had the experience of meeting someone that we thought was great, or someone who said they're excited to go on holiday with us next year or something, and it absolutely fizzles out and goes completely nowhere. Like, we've all been there. It's disappointing. What this does, by switching on your skill set to meet men in real life, what it does is, I want you to imagine that your dating life is a bit like a marathon. And what you're trying to do is to hand out tickets to that marathon and get lots and lots of potential suitors onto that starting line. When you're looking at that starting line of your marathon to be your life partner, you're not going to choose the winner, or you're not going to second guess who might be the winner from that starting lineup. You're going to get your popcorn or your glass of Prosecco, and you're going to sit on a deck chair and you're going to let them run the race. So you're going to then let the dating process unfold. And it's over quite an extended period of time where you're really going to get a good insight into who are the better quality partners for you. So meeting men in real life isn't in and of itself, nothing is a complete solution in your dating life, but by turning on the tap of finding far more potential partners, handing out those tickets to the start of the race, it psychologically puts you in, I think, a very different position towards dating, where you can get on that deck chair and you can think, hang on a minute, I actually can consider how someone is showing up for me as a partner and how they're relating to me, and I can choose, versus, you know what, I've just read some blog or some social media posts and it says that there's no good men left and the only ones that have got attachment issues and nobody wants relationships in 2024. And actually that guy that I was messaging on an app has just flaked out and cancelled on our date at the last minute. And you add all that together and you can actually feel completely the opposite. You can feel a lot of scarcity and a lot of fear around dating, which then obviously most fundamentally just makes you feel bad. And secondly, puts you kind of on the back foot psychologically and with your confidence in terms of how you're engaging with him. So meeting men in real life, or even effectively on live or through all channels, is not a solution in and of itself, but it can start to create better momentum and it puts you in a better space to judge. And to go back to what Julia's question, if we're thinking about handing out tickets to the marathon race to be your partner, how he interacts with you during those early interactions also does start to give you some feedback on this. Is he just talking about himself? Is he asking questions to you? Is he asking for your phone number? Does he follow up, later that night with a nice message? There's lots of early indicators that we can get as to who he is and what he's able to offer us. That being said, The third exercise, and this is a question that I'm actually going to put to you tonight as well, is when we're in that marathon running space where you've got some potential people that are on the starting line, that you're some men that you're starting to get to know and you're thinking about how they're figuring out in your life. A huge problem that can come up at this slightly different stage of dating can be that the uncertainty of how things are going to end up can also start to feel really anxiety inducing. So for instance, you may find if you finally do meet someone you like, and that feels really rare, that immediately as you've started to meet them, you may start to become preoccupied with how is this relationship going to turn out? Does he want something serious with me? And is he seeing other people? And you may feel like you really need to get into that space where you have a concrete resolution with him, where you know and understand where you stand. And this again, feeling that need to get to certainty can again negatively impact your dating life in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. It can mean that there's too much expectation placed on someone. It means that you can not focus on how someone's actually showing up for you because you become attached to that outcome of it working out. You can, instead of focusing on how he's gradually building commitment with you, you can be in a rush to get to that space, which means you may not act in a way which really is how you would like to act and connect with him, and it may not be interacting with him in the most attractive way. So instead, if you meet a great guy that you like and you're attracted to him, can I ask you this? What's the value? Is there a positive benefit that you can get from this uncertain period where you don't know where you stand with him? What's the positive to you of not knowing where you stand and not knowing what's going on? What's the value in uncertainty? And I think, again, Julia, can you date other men at the same time? I think until each woman to herself on this one, but I'd say at least remain socially open, if not completely open to dating other people, unless you've had that conversation. But again, this really depends on your individual sense of what you feel able to commit to someone. Sarah says you get to time to study that person. Really good. So that's great. Lauren, I could evaluate him accurately, not jumping ahead in my mind, seeing him navigate the process unfolding, using time for assessment, leave the opportunity for him to reveal his intentions. You never know someone unless time has passed. Really brilliant answers. So this is where there's a real value in letting someone run the marathon, and perhaps you handing out a few different tickets to get different men on that starting line. Because instead of commitment, again, I think how women in dating are spoken to about commitment is just patronising, and it's depressing and it's horrible. Commitment isn't something that we have to arm twist out of someone. There are many men out there in the world who want the same committed, loving relationship you do. Actually, if you can meet just a handful of those men, it's your inability where you can choose. And you know what? Commitment is a really big deal. Sometimes it involves marriage, sometimes children, sometimes mortgages, sometimes joint bank accounts, sometimes helping one another out through difficult times in our lives. So we don't need to race towards that conclusion. You don't need to race towards that conclusion. In fact, it becomes about you being able to choose. And this is the reality that I want you to be in your dating life, where you are finding it much easier to meet high quality men. And because of that, you start to see a value in this time of uncertainty, where you actually really like to be sitting on your deck chair and watching people run the race, because it's really important to you. I know that lots of you will also really enjoy single life, will value your life as it is at the moment, and it sets the bar very high for who's going to come into your life. So the secret recipe for dating, in my opinion, is to find a way to date in a way that's fun and rewarding and motivating to you. So to really start to notice when you're engaging with dating, aspects of that you find demotivating and energy draining, because we need to keep you in the race as well. We need to keep you motivated and ready to go out there and meet someone. Secondly, to really turn on the tap with your ability to meet men, particularly in real life. This is a learnable skill. All aspects of it, not just how to get them to say hello to you, but the initial conversations and dates that you have, how to get him to ask your phone number, how you put across boundaries with him, how you set up those dates. All of this is learnable. And you know what? It's exciting, interesting things to learn which improve your personal development and teach you an awful lot about yourself in the process. Claire, that's a fantastic question. I'm going to get back to that during the Q&A. And if anybody else has any questions, please write them in now so I have time to get to everybody. Once you turn on the tap of meeting people, you've developed the skill. It's about creating then a really great filtering process in that initial getting to know you time. And just as so many of you have said, you can't know someone until you know someone. So giving yourself that time to choose and seeing really a lot of value in that time of uncertainty and putting yourself in the position as the chooser in the relationship. So I really love to think about women's dating, of how can we make dating fun? How can we make dating confidence boosting? How can we make it motivating? And how can we make it, most importantly, teachable? So it's not this intangible thing that keeps slipping through your fingers. That's what all our coaching is about. As I said, we also really specialize in taking you out into the real world to meet men, because that's, I think, where we get the best feedback loop, not only in terms of socially how you're interacting with men. Are you inadvertently just networking with them instead of presenting yourself as date? Do you feel too much scrutiny about being single, or lack of self-belief that's stopping you from meeting men? We're going to get feedback on all of that, and we're really going to start to understand how you can change how you relate to men. And you get no better feedback than when you work with people in real life, just the same, I think. Of course I'm going to say that because I believe in real life. I've got lots of time, I think, coming up for a Q&A, and so please, if you've got a question, write it in. But before the Q&A, I just want to make one quick and quite exciting announcement for me. I'm really happy to be bringing back my signature Going Renegade dating, month-long dating program. We haven't run it in a couple of years because of the pandemic, and because I had young children at the time. Before the pandemic, it was featured in Cosmopolitan and Grazia, and it's a month-long training, including weekly online sessions like the one that we've done today, and also weekly in-person sessions where we take you out into the real world in London to meet men in real life. You can follow the course online, or you can also do the full in real life training. It would mean, again, just like anything in your life, there's a bit of a commitment coming up here. We will be doing daily WhatsApp coaching sessions. We have 4 online masterclasses that are going to be running at the same time as this masterclass, starting on Tuesday, the 23rd of January. And our in-person sessions are generally held on Thursday evenings in London. Thank you to the work from home working week. It means that is simply the best time to coach. It may not be, the most convenient time for all of us, but it is the best time. And all of our coaching has been developed over years of working out what actually works with meeting men in person. Now, if you are curious about what this involves, you can see there's a nice review there in Cosmopolitan. All I would say is take the time to have a conversation. We have 3 spots left on the program. If you'd be interested in joining us and you are down for a real radical change to your dating life, simply email hayley@hayleyquinn.com and we can set up a call to discuss exactly what the program involves. You can also find it, of course, on our website. It is, yes, Sarah, there is a version of the program that's only online as well. So you can also follow it remotely. It includes weekly WhatsApp challenges, daily WhatsApp coaching with me, plus weekly masterclass webinars that are online as well. So yes, you can 100% join just for that version. If you would like to know more details, or you're curious, or your interest has been piqued, or you're just ready for something very different, also feel free to email hayley@hayleyquinn.com, or you can book a space on our website. The link should probably magically appear after this webinar session has finished. Before we go do some more details of that, I just want to get back on Claire and Paula's questions. And if anybody has any more questions, please send them in. Claire asks, is it possible to juggle multiple men at the stages to avoid wasting time? I've tried for so many years to get it right. Claire, simply yes, it is. In terms of juggling men, a couple of things that I would think about to there's one mindset shift and two practical actions I'd suggest based on your question to consider. Mindset shift, I know, again, as women, time is probably one of our biggest fears, right? Because we've always been spoken to about, time's running out, it's only going to get harder, I wish I'd met someone when I was 25. Like, a lot of the language we hear around dating just presses the fear button for us around time. And we're also all busy. So I understand why you don't want to waste time. However, I would, if you can, swap out of that mindset. And because when we're in this wasting time mindset, it's like, I need to get to a decision ASAP. I don't have the time to spare. And in that, when we rush our decision-making process, we often make poor decisions. Instead, counterintuitively, it's actually about entering into completely a different mindset, which is actually, I've got all the time in the world. I'm going to take my time making what is a really important decision. I'm going to enjoy exploring and getting to know people. I'm going to enjoy all these men trying their best to impress me. This is actually quite fun and quite pleasant. Practical action steps to do that. First of all, think about how much you want to give to those early dating experiences. An early date, say a first date, none of us know whether that's going to be the love of our lives or we're never going to hear from them again. With that in mind, avoid overgiving. Overgiving could be traveling to an area that's inconvenient for you. It could be staying longer, staying on a date when you don't feel a connection with them. So consider ways that you can also limit how much you give. Second practical tip is to think of it like, make the primary consideration of what you're filtering for, at least in the beginning, make it about their willingness and their effort levels versus initial connection. And if someone's giving you that willingness and that effort level, they're planning really high quality dates and they're really making an effort to get to know you, gently increase your bandwidth for them. And for the man who cancels at the last minute or says, oh, I'm really sorry, I have my work deadline's run over, can we do tomorrow instead? Reduce your bandwidth for him. So it's a little bit, there could be some more management around that. It's possible, it's not for everybody. Personally, I think if you can get to know, and that doesn't have to mean having sexual relationships with anyone, it means getting to know several men in parallel, that could be a great thing for many reasons. Paula says, at least on apps, men are single and available ostensibly. You don't know that in real life. Well, Paula, I would suggest this. I think apps and real life are not that much different, really. There will be people on apps who aren't single. And there will also be people on apps who, even if they are single, as I'm sure everyone here has experienced, even if they are completely single, they lack the motivation and it being a focus at this time in their life, and they don't make any effort to meet. There's not that drive to meet. And I think both men and women, we're all guilty of this, can use apps in a way, not just dating apps, just apps generally, in a way that can be quite passive without actually, really making a commitment that this is something we're focusing on. I would say in real life, with some technique, you can do a pretty great job of filtering out people who are socially open and who want to get to know you. So that filter can exist, but wherever you meet men, remember it's not the where, it's the how. Wherever you meet men, you have to filter, because inevitably you'll meet people who are not available as part of that process, whether that's not physically available because they have a partner or because they're not emotionally available or ready to be the partner that you need them to be. So there is always filtering wherever you meet someone. Sarah asked 2 questions. 1, do you recommend telling a guy during a first date that you are looking for something long term? To answer that question, I would probably say a focus of a first date, I would have fun and see if you connect with them. I think what can happen, again, this can fall into you could think it's a great idea because you don't want to waste time. However, when we're applying filters in dating, it's all about applying the right filter at the right moment. if it comes up in conversation, you could say, of course, you know, if I meet someone amazing, if I find a great connection, yeah, of course I'd be open to a long-term relationship. That would be great. But by presenting it as not having a need around that, it puts you again in this position where instead of commitment being something you're chasing and wringing out of someone, you are the chase. They have to chase you to commit to them. It's like you're open to forming a fantastic relationship if someone who truly adds value to your life comes along, and if not, you're really happy as you are. So that, it's somewhat subtle, but I think again, exactly how you put that across, both not only in how you phrase it to them, but how you also frame it in your own mindset to yourself, makes a difference in terms of how, not only how attractive you are perceived, but also psychologically how good you feel about the process of dating overall. Second question. During my last couple of relationships, the guys end up complaining that they were the only ones reaching out most of the time, and I find it very hard to initiate more often. Is that really necessary? Well, I think like all relationships, there's tipping points that happen in relationships. So at the start, I do think that getting the sun lounger, without you intervening, seeing how much effort they make to get to know you is good. That your role and where you put effort in is when they are making an effort with you, you're warm, you're receptive, you're playful, you fun, light, all these, you exude these attractive qualities that men love in women and that also are just nice forgetting men, that are just nice for us to operate in as well as people. Then in all relationships, there starts to become a tip where you also start to contribute more and you also give into the relationship. But it's finding that balance between not complete passivity, because relationships should feel reciprocal. We all, you know, relationships that are interdependent, we do things for one another, whilst also not over giving, and finding that space where you feel that at least at the beginning you're receiving that attention and that connection from him, as that is your first major threshold that he has to go through. Claire, the biggest issue I have is my biological clock. I was in an 8-year relationship with ended then having spent a few years trying to get it right but failing. I wonder if it's better not to have a baby than to compromise too much, to be honest. I think the change in my career also came at a bad time here. I'm open to adoption. Yes, true, I try to be less critical, for some are better long term than first appearances. I think that's true. Again, I think first appearances and first connections are often very deceptive. So it sounds like, Claire, that you've struck upon a good thing there. And again, wouldn't it be great if we on a first date just knew what someone was going to be in our lives? But but considering that's impossible, if we try to know, it will negatively intervene with many aspects of the dating process. So as counterintuitive as it is, that sitting back and observing and watching how they show up for you is really important. And it's also good for you to, Claire, that you've created some freedom for yourself there of looking into different and being open to different avenues towards motherhood, so you don't feel that time pressure, which I know it's unfair, and it's something that we have to contend with as women that men don't have to contend with. But again, if we let that interfere too much with how we're engaging with dating, will often prompt us to make not so great decisions. Lauren, is there such a thing as a person too ugly or so short for the thesis? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We work with people, I wouldn't say socially awkward, but sometimes we work with people who are neurodiverse, who perhaps certain aspects of skills like eye contact will not be as intuitive as for other people. That's the purpose of skill-based training. And, you know, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. It's not about appealing. It's not about being a conventional standard of beauty. It's about knowing what we bring as individuals and really valuing that and working with that angle. None of us can appeal to everyone, and that is okay. But I think instead of, again, in terms of mindset shift, instead of thinking, oh, I don't have long hair, or I don't have a slim body, or I don't have a curvy body, or all this like bad messaging that we're given as women as reasons why we can't achieve something. Instead, go, you know what, I'm worthwhile, I'm attractive, I've got stuff that I'm bringing to the table. The right people will recognize that, and it's about working into a much better psychological position. I'd also like to add, related to that question, we have no age limits on our training. So please don't listen to this and think this is something that women in their 20s do. In fact, we work with women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We're open to everybody. And in fact, there can be, I think, a real power in learning